Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Okay, great day, then.
If anyone wants to sit on the carpet, you can also sit here in your room. But,
And there's another small step in between.
there's another one. Oh, okay, good. More mats. I don't know if that heater's helping much.
I think I have a
Get
few
closer
in my
to
car
it.
too.
But, yes, thanks for coming. Thank you all for coming tonight. What is your name? I haven't met you before.
Cameron.
Cameron. Okay, nice to meet you, Cameron.
And yours?
Mukunda. Yes, my name is Mukunda.
Oh, that was your name.
So, there are many aspects of Krishna consciousness. Many different aspects and therefore, so much could be discussed, so much could be written about, read about. But a couple aspects. One aspect of Krishna consciousness is that one should develop a vision for seeing how everything is connected to Krishna, how everything relates with Krishna, literally everything. And therefore, a perfect Vaishnava, a perfect devotee of Krishna, a perfect follower of Krishna, that's how he sees everything. He or she sees everything. How is everything just automatically, not even on the level of perfection, one automatically sees how everything is connected with Krishna. How you could say how Krishna would see this, how Krishna would instruct me to interact with this or with that or to see things. So that's one aspect of Krishna consciousness, is how to connect everything with Krishna and how to see everything in relationship with Krishna. It's like a Krishna conscious vision. Now then, another aspect of Krishna consciousness, a bit of a different aspect that's also important, is the ability to respect other followers of Krishna, even other followers, and maybe they're different ways of following Krishna. So those are just two particular aspects of Krishna consciousness that I was thinking about that are very important, and you can also see like a parallel in even the secular world, that these things are important, being able to see things, how things are true, and just kind of understand what's going on around me, see it in terms of reality, and just not notice what's going around me, or just have so many misconceptions about what's going on around me, misperceive so many things. And also, and even in the secular world, this is an important quality, to be able to hear different opinions and respect other people. Just be able to not just put someone into a category and dismiss them without even trying to understand where they're coming from. So these are good qualities, to be able to even to respect another, or at least see where someone's coming from, even if it's even if I think that I can definitely see what they're missing, where they're mistaken, and so on. Now, I bring that up because I thought that this could be, and I was speaking with Kartik and I was speaking with another devotee about how I think this could be a nice exercise amongst devotees of Krishna, discussing various topics, and particularly I was thinking certain controversial topics, discussing them and seeing how one can view these topics, understand these topics, in light of, or through the lens of Krishna consciousness. And really how one could at least try to even make an argument for any side of a particular issue through Krishna consciousness. Just because you can make an argument from any side doesn't mean they're all right, but it's a good exercise. So I was thinking we could discuss so many things. We could discuss veganism through the lens of Krishna consciousness. What Krishna conscious arguments could you give to what Krishna conscious points from ancient literature coming from, or spoken word coming from Krishna, or the written, what's written by our different saints. How could you support an argument for veganism? Or maybe you could make different arguments, there's different kind of forms of veganism and so on. And how could you support it, or how could you argue against it? Or how could you have a different take on veganism through the lens of Krishna, Krishna's teachings, the teachings of the saints who follow Krishna. So many things like that. The Me Too movement, you could say, like current events, the defund the police, these different topics. How could someone view these points or these topics through a Krishna conscious perspective? But gender roles, so many things could be discussed and see, okay, how, because even no matter what group you're in, still you'll find people who are just of different convictions, naturally. So it's a good exercise to at least see where a person's coming from and see, not just this is my conviction and these are the arguments for it, and I dare not even consider an argument against my conviction. It's a good exercise to see both sides, and as many sides as possible. So I thought we could do that, something like that. But I thought we could start it off a little lighter. Because there's so many topics, how to understand these things, even abortion and so many things, which are very sensitive, very sensitive discussions. So definitely we'll keep it light. I mean, it's a light topic. We'll focus on one topic. Now, any of you who took a debate class or club, or even like a speech class, you've probably come across their various fallacies and ways that arguments don't go anywhere. One of them is topic switching. So I'm speaking about a particular point, and I'm saying that apples are better than oranges, and you say oranges aren't fair trade. We need to first discuss what's fair trade and what's not, and then we can discuss what's apples and what's oranges. And then they were like, and then we go on and we start talking about fair trade. But we were just talking. The whole discussion we were going to go into is and then I used the analogy apples to oranges, and then all of a sudden we went that's a silly example. But that actually happens all over the place, and I'm guilty of it. It's very easy for everybody. So yeah, for some people, if I'm not trained in listening, which is common, and I am not quite perfectly trained in listening, but these are some things to look out for. So with those things in mind, I thought we could discuss climate change through a Krishna conscious perspective. Now, first of all, we could say, okay, secular or not, whatever it is. This topic of climate change, we can say, okay, what are the different categories? So maybe we could at least say that. I mean, there's at least one category. When camp saying that climate change is happening, and it is. I think it's like there's like so many different camps. So let's see. What do you think? What's the best way to break it down? I mean, there's one camp that climate change is real. You could say in kind of a crude term, climate change is real, and it is almost entirely, or it is significantly from human intervention in the environment, or it's from human origin. And then there's a category that it's real, it's happening, but it's not. Really, it's not the humans that are really causing it. There's another camp, more on the other side. I mean, there's a very further camp that it's just not happening at all. Perhaps a minority fall into that category, but let's say there's no climate change happening at all. It's an illusion, or it's bad reporting or something. And there's a camp that it's happening, but it's relatively insignificant. Now there are other camps. What can you think of? Those are some main ones that come to mind. And then you do, yeah.
I think in terms of like trying to keep it like Krishna conscious, like one of the most common words is karma, right? Action and reaction. So that's like the first thing that I would think of when we're talking about like the reaction of the earth to us. But I've never really understood if karma can happen within like your lifetime, or it's only supposed to happen like after, like the repercussions of karma, can they happen like within this time frame? And if so, that's how I would maybe explain the reactions of our existence.
Yeah. So we're saying, how would there are so many people in the outside of the devotional community, or those who follow Krishna at least, who would attribute, if they accept climate change, they would attribute it to human action. So, and some would say not. So how would what positions could a Vaishnava take, and not defend, but supporting that argument or that perspective through Krishna consciousness? One main one is that yes, there's climate change is going on. That there's some climate change going on this planet, and that it is due to the laws or the laws of karma. Not and even like very immediate karma or long-term karma, but yes, the climate is changing. So that's one position. All these positions actually could hold. Some may be stronger than others in terms of supported by, statements in the Vedas or statements by Krishna, statements by certain saints. But at least pretty much all these positions could be held by a Vaishnava. So one, it seems like this would probably, uphold the idea that yes, there is this disaster of climate change going on, and yes, it is from humans, and it is from the laws of karma. It is due to the laws of karma.
Specifically collective karma.
And then Jessica, specifically collective karma. What else would someone say? The same could support it, maybe support the same conception, or maybe give a different conception. And also, a good practice is, even if this isn't my conception at all, how can we give the strongest argument to another conception, or to another, So what's the strongest argument we could give from a Vedic point of view, from the point of view of some statement of Krishna? Can we find some statement of Krishna which would support the view that climate change is not going on at all, even if that's not at all my conviction? But could we at least undergo that practice of supporting that? What's the strongest argument I could think of? I'm not saying we have to do that immediately. I'm just saying that practice is good. So, what other thoughts do you have? And I know some haven't read as much, the statements of Krishna. They maybe haven't heard as many classes, but even if not, whatever's coming to mind that you think is relevant.
In this moment, I can't think of something that would disprove climate change, but what does kind of feel relevant is that, going through different yugas, that there's just different circumstances, and so it would be maybe less considered of like an effect that is happening because of, see, even that echoes a little bit in collective karma because of the yuga change, but that it is just a natural process that is happening. So instead of like the impact we are currently having, or the impact of collective karma, that it's just going to change anyways because the yugas are proceeding through different yugas.
Yeah. Now this could be this point could be used to support perhaps a few different, at least slightly different camps. Now it could even be used, because the point Jessica's bringing up is that this whole material creation which we're in, so many planets and so on, this whole material creation we're in, this Earth planet being one part of it, it's going through, as it always does, as described in the Vedic literature, it's going through cycles. And part of that cycle at some point will be complete destruction. But the cycle is that it's the whole this whole material creation is in good harmony and good health. Everything's going along nicely and smoothly. Even the plants and animals, everything's just in right balance. And then as over long spans of time, it goes through these different seasons or these different cycles. And therefore, as it ends, moves toward the end of the cycle, things will deteriorate. And things will fall apart, and then until everything is destroyed, and then the whole cycle begins again. So that's one point. Now some could use that to argue that, well, because one camp, whatever your vision is, one camp is that, yes, climate change is going on, but there's nothing we can do about it. Someone could use this point to argue that. They at least you could see where they're coming from if someone were to make that argument. That this universe, and at least this planet, it goes through cycles, and at some point, everything becomes in balance, and leads to decay. Ultimately, there's a destruction of this material, this planet. So, sorry, did you were going to say something?
Yeah. I think also, with the illusion, obviously, that we live in an age of, we're moving from the industrial age into an age of technocracy. And I think with a lot of disinformation that's out there, you have a lot of people like World Economic Forum, a lot of people that are attached to, people who worship like Babylonian gods in ancient Sumeria, and back to like Zionism, Phoenician Canaanites, 33 and 33 Masonic Illuminati, and a lot of these people like World Economic Forum that kind of parade around, masquerading around in a cloak of false altruism that they'll tell us anything, and it's part of this Maya and illusion to distract us, and it is a part of, because you do see that something's wrong, like to solve world hunger, it only takes $3 billion. And then Bill Gates has $120 billion. He's supposed to be a philanthropist, but still people are starving. So there is something going on that's much darker and deeper. I'm sorry. Did I kind of trail off a little bit there?
Well, I would say that someone may object that, well, if we're trying to make this a conversation of how to see these events, how to see these topics through merely, or at least, through statements in Shastra, or statements by Krishna, statements by different saints, one might say, well, that's more the realm of empiricism, which is not invalid,
Sure.
but at least for the sake of this, forum, then we're saying, well, because there's so many different, I could pull different studies from different research institutions or anything, or I could pull up other things, like more incriminating evidence against Rockefellers or whoever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I could, there's different ways we could go, but at least if one is to try to support a particular conception of what's going on, how do I see what's going on with this climate change? How do I understand this in terms of what Krishna teaches about this universe and how people interact and how things fall apart and so on, and then what do I do about it? What can I do about it? What do I do about it? And how do I develop some kind of conception from statements by Krishna? Then we can say, okay, well that's more like what I see, what I read, and that's more like my empiric evidence. But one could say that your statement is more in the realm of, well, and it's related to this topic, that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that there are people that there are people in the material world who are of demonic nature, who actually develop a sense of enjoyment out of causing distress and lording it over other people.
100%, yes.
So one could at least maybe trace back what you were saying to that
Yeah,
statement.
I'm sorry,
Bhagavad
I kind
Gita.
of-
So if we were to
yes,
support it
yes.
from a statement of Bhagavad Gita or by Prabhupada, you could say, well, what you're saying is that, well, on the topic of climate change, well, some would see it that yes, this is what Krishna's describing in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when he says that there are actually people in the world who have become very sick, and they actually take pleasure in causing other people suffering, and therefore some would interpret it as that is what's going on right now in the world. There are certain leaders who are actually seeking world domination or so on. So that could be, and then you could try to support it, with that verse in Bhagavad Gita. And some would say, well, that's not a very valid support, but again, these are different positions.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I'll leave.
It's
No,
quite
no, sorry.
relevant, actually, sorry, Molila, if you
Mhm.
don't mind, before I lose my train of thought. The two topics are interconnected in some way because these people they do exist, or they are very demoniac, and but there are people who believe the things that they are promoting, right? And there's part of the camps is like that, oh, it's only a political facade that climate change exists, and that because it's being sold that this exists, there are certain laws that are being created that impede on whatever, and so people do accept that as a fact and then have an argument that is against climate change because of this reaction, which then, if we go back to what we were just saying just a moment before, if those people believe that it's not climate change is not fact, that it is just a process that is going to happen anyways, and so I feel like it is relevant. It wasn't such a far off.
Oh, I don't think so. I didn't mean to think that it was far off.
No,
No,
I
I don't think that you say that either, but you definitely refer to the people who are selling the idea that it's false. Would really, in reality, they have just an evil nature about them that is explained in the Gita. And then also people who are buying it thinking that it is real and that there's nothing wrong with that sort of thinking. And those people are swayed by the idea that it's just a natural process and it's not true, it's not real. So you have both at play. So that's all that really I had to say. Amulila wanted to.
Will you had something else on?
Well, I was just gonna kind of make it a little more pointed, you could say, because I have anyway the text of the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and verses 8 and 9 seem to kind of support, or at least you could use them to support this idea that that climate change is caused by humans because of the reasons expressed here. Verse 8 talking about those who are, well, I guess we could say verse 7 too. Those who are demoniac, those who are evil, do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. They say that this world is unreal, that there is no foundation, and that there is no God in control. It is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Means we carry on everything just by our own, efforts through procreation, etc. Following such conclusions, the demoniac, who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. So it seems to support at least that there is a class of people, like we've kind of been discussing, who are just by nature, their conditioning, or you could say the nature of their conditioning, is that they're just evil. And they're just set out, practically speaking, to destroy the world. So you could use this to support, one, not only that it's caused by humans, but two, that at least from somewhere, it's intentional.
Yeah, so this, yeah, so now we can see, at least so far, even with these few, points, we can see how a follower of Krishna could arrive at these different conclusions about when one, sees this topic of climate change going on, one could arrive at a different conclusion, or it could remind them of a different state by Krishna. Oh yes, I see the topic of climate change going on, and I think, yes, as Krishna explained in Bhagavad Gita, there are nefarious people who actually engage in activities meant to destroy the world. They actually take pleasure out of that. Or one could also see it, and they could see, yes, this is the nature, and you could say that would fall into like what secular world would call the category of I guess that could even be used to support two different categories. One, that there are people who are, that could be support the category that is not going on at all. They're just people who are making some facade. It could also, somebody could use that, and therefore they could have the perspective that this climate change is going on, but it's because of these demonic people, who are guiding, these demonic people in the world. So we can at least even see those how a devotee could arrive at those different conceptions.
How evil does the world have to be till Krishna arrives again on earth?
That I would call topic switching.
Okay.
We could discuss that after, but it's a good question.
All right.
I'm going to think about that one, and we can discuss it.
Also, can monks change somebody that's evil good?
Not only monks, anyone connected with Krishna in some way can help others. So, do you want to?
Yeah.
Different perspective or same perspective with a different topic, different.
I mean, I guess the balance of
Yeah. But yeah, so and then Mark.
Okay. The balance of approval said. I guess it would be, you could see how the modes of material nature actually take effect on the individuals. It's in the mode of ignorance. But I was thinking that people don't really have knowledge, as we were talking about earlier, about Krishna, and so therefore they're misdirected in such a way. So you tell them, climate change is real, but then they could believe it or not believe it, but it just becomes an inconvenience for them because they want to go about their daily lives in such a way. But then the people who do believe it, they try to make a difference. You see all these organizations. I know this one called Extinction Rebellion. It's not like that. I forgot what was it exactly, but they do radical things to make a statement. Like they go into museums and they destroy paintings and whatnot. But the thing is that what I was saying, they don't know actual knowledge, like absolute truth and whatnot. Just like even coming up from material nature, they could be brought up to a level of understanding of Parayama. From there, they could develop compassion for within entities. So therefore, they're just misdirected. Even if they want to help, they like, I want to make a difference. I'm trying to do this, and so gradually they work the way up the ladder. The mode of compassion to the mode of goodness. And I guess from the mode of goodness, then that's when you guys develop a loving relationship with Krishna. And then from there,
Yeah, there are many verses in Bhagavad Gita talking about how people are in different modes of nature, they have different consciousnesses. They're in different states of consciousness, and therefore those who haven't been uplifted into the mode of goodness, even if they hear good instruction and they realize that me acting like this will hurt other people, may even hurt myself, Anubandham, Shem Himsam, it'll cause, future bondage to myself, violence to others. Still, because of like the conscience I'm in, I think, well, I'm going to do it anyway because that's what I want to do. And so when one rises to the mode of goodness, even just like the mode of goodness, not even very spiritual, just rising to the mode of goodness makes one think, what can I actually do? Maybe I've been told that my actions or my ways of living are causing harm to other living entities. What can I do about it? So that's also it doesn't exactly put you in a certain camp as to what's going on with climate change, but it does that's one aspect is how does a Vaishnava think when he's in terms of climate change? Well, one is that so many people in this world unfortunately haven't been given facility to rise to the mode of goodness, and therefore even if they hear good instruction, now what good instruction is part of this debate. But even if they hear good instruction, even if they do hear what is right about what is actually happening with climate change, it will be difficult for them to actually mold their behavior or even their opinion accordingly. It's but Krishna says it also in Bhagavad Gita that one in a kind of lower consciousness, he's very attached to one way of seeing things. One thing is the all in all. One work as the all in all. This is the way to do everything, and there's no other perspective. There's no other way to live. There's no other one thing is the all in all. So that's one very big topic and very relevant topic is these modes of nature that people are stuck in will affect how they interpret even good information and then what they do about it. So Mark and then you. Do you want to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna ping off what Homegirl said, Jess, right? Yeah, I was just gonna ping off what she said. We feel like ages ago, and I'm gonna pummel my way through it because I don't remember the exact.
Yeah, I got to earlier. Sorry.
I don't remember the exact part of the book, but I read it when Krishna shows like the totality of what he is. I mean, wouldn't that also be an argument for the climate change being a natural part of things? I mean, I know we kind of walked over the topic, but it's like if he shows a totalitarian thing and then climate change is in there, man, it's like, oh, that's part of the plan of everything. Because it's like, whether if it looks like Blade Runner outside or if it's like fucking the Garden of Eden, then it's like, oh no, that's according to the plan.
Yeah.
And that also goes with just like the desires of like the darkest hearts, the darkest of men out there with their desires, as well as just like the good people around here. I mean, it's just like, hey, again, making an argument for climate change being an actual like force of nature and a force of Krishna. It's like, hey, it's supposed to be a part of the plan.
Yeah, when Krishna describes not only in Bhagavad Gita but even Srimad Bhagavatam, when he describes the whole system, how the universe looks, and how everything is connected with Krishna, even like all the different planetary systems and everything, all the different celestial bodies, how they're all part of like this like universal form. Everything in the creation destruction of everything in the cosmos is it's being already conceived of. It's already part of a certain cycle, part of a plan. Similar to when we were discussing how Kali Yuga happens. Jessica was saying that Kali Yuga is a cycle, and that no matter what we do, that cycle is going to happen. I can no matter what happens, winter's going to come at some point, and so yeah, that's one point. Yeah, and I know I've embarrassed, but tell me your name.
Don't worry, it's Cameron.
Cameron, yeah.
Tell me yours again.
Mukunda. How did you forget my name?
I heard you, but is it V?
Mukunda.
Mukunda.
Yeah. Yes, what do you want to say?
Now, I didn't think that I would have anything to say, but it just like, and I don't even know if this is Bhagavad Gita, but I think it is the quote something like, "The only evils in the world are the ones in our own hearts, and that's where the battle must be fought."
If it is, it may be a different translation that I'm not recognizing. The point is good. The point is certainly valid. The point is it's certainly a Vaishnava perception also, that really the issue is with, every person can really control one's own consciousness and one's own Krishna consciousness. And so even in terms of the laws of karma, I can really only hurt myself in one sense, and then other than that, I'm really acting as the instruments of other people's karma. But that's like, this is me topic switching, so scratch that. But that's there. Draw it out more. How would you connect that with?
I was just connecting it by, at least when I heard that quote, I assumed it was referring to any conception of an external evil at all, and saying that if we conceive of evil outside of ourselves, like that's like an untruth, and that we would be like what we should really be looking at is what's within ourselves, and any evils there are in the world are actually that any evil that needs to be fought is within ourselves, and that's where we should be putting our attention at least.
Yeah, what you're saying could also be drawn into different points I'm thinking.
Oh, you're asking how it was relevant to this?
No, sorry, that's good, I like what you said, and I'm just thinking that even from that could be then made into like separate points, like relevant to this topic. One being that one could look at the topic of climate change, and I could say, okay, well, there's this nefarious force, or there's this kind of, and not that this is exactly how you're saying it, but one could also see it as, well, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the person saying the only problem the only problem is my mind. Meaning, like, even if I'm distressed, it's because I'm interpreting things a certain way, and even if things are falling apart, well, I don't need to be distressed by it. So maybe that's a little irrelevant, but in one sense, that the main thing I can do is because sometimes it becomes a matter of, look at that person's carbon footprint, look at these people's carbon footprints, and my carbon footprint is understandable. Listen, I have kids, so it becomes a little of a bit of a double standard. That I feel like, listen, I'm trying, I'm doing my best. Why aren't these people recycling better? Something like that. So someone could say that it's the evil's out there, and understand that I'm coming from a good place. When rather there's a statement, and I've yet, you'd think by now I would have looked it up and confirmed, but it's generally attributed to Srila Prabhupada, our guru. The statement being that one should be lenient with others and strict with oneself. So one could also consider that point in relation to climate change, rather than pushing all, seeing what can I do in my own life, what can I, not that that's really your point, I'm kind of changing, I'm not putting words, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but that's one thing that comes to mind. More can be drawn out of that, but at least for now, that's also there,
I was just going to go off what Mark said. It reminded me of a text, or two texts in Srimad Bhagavatam. Because what Mark was saying was that, okay, well, climate change is just kind of like included, it's part of the package you get with the material world.
Yeah.
And just for the sake of fleshing out the argument with some reference from scripture. There is in the 12th canto, what chapter is this? 12th canto, 2nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text number, this chapter is describing the symptoms of this age, as this age progresses, Kali Yuga.
I think 12 chapter 2.
Huh?
12
Canto
chapter
12 chapter 2. Basically this describes the symptoms, like how things are going to kind of play out, generally speaking. So, yes. Text 9 and 10 are the relevant ones. Harassed by famine and excessive taxes, people will resort to eating leaves, roots, flesh, wild honey, fruits, flowers, and seeds.
See, paleo diet, that's the diet.
Yeah. Struck by drought, they will become completely ruined. The citizens will suffer greatly from cold, wind, heat, rain, and snow. They will be further tormented by quarrels, hunger, thirst, disease, and severe anxiety. But specifically, I'm thinking that sentence. The citizens will suffer greatly from cold, wind, heat, rain, and snow. So somebody could make the argument, okay, well, this is talking about climate change. And you're saying that.
Yeah. I was also thinking, when it's describing, I was also thinking about using that verse also, and also the verse describing how in Kali Yuga then everything will be disordered. It will rain at the wrong times, everything, like even the weather will be inconvenient. So whereas when everything's in harmony and everyone's, living, properly in harmony with nature, then even the rain, all the seasons, they're actually in harmony. Everything actually, even like, the wind and the rain, the cold and the heat and everything, it works just right for all the different plants and the production of fruits and grains and so on. And whereas in Kali Yuga, everything becomes disordered. Now from there still, I think that different camps could arise from that. Yes, but what's going on? What is it true? Is it because the cycle is naturally doing it and we can't do anything about it? We can pious as we may be, or hey, nothing, or it's up to me to slow this cycle of Kali Yuga. Now, before we go further, because there's a lot more could be talking about, could be said, and I want to hear what Kartik has also. I know he's very Bhagavad Gita conscious. But one thing I was thinking also is that a different whole aspect of climate change is what can we do about it, or what would the remedy be? is, and so generally, so how would a Vaishnava think of, or how would they interpret, conversations about, well, we're going to reduce these particular resources, use of these resources, we're going to increase this, we're going to reduce this, or reduce this, and so many things, and we're going to, create these sorts of laws, and so many, and so on. How would a Vaishnava interpret that, or think of that, in terms, in light of Krishna's teachings? Now, one thing I was thinking of is that, many would say that we can slow climate change, or we can or reverse it if people live as they do, but we just enact certain regulations. So this, I think, a very strong argument from the Vaishnava point of view, from Krishna teachings, is that this will never slow. That if climate change is going on like this, then and actually, for the most part, Vaishnava literature does say that in Kali Yuga, yes. It seems like the stronger source, or like the greater source of verses, or about climate change, it seems would support. This is my opinion, but you have to look into it for yourself. But supports that, yes, in Kali Yuga, in this time that we're in, this time period, the climate will become erratic, it will become unfavorable, it will become very difficult for humans to live in, and therefore the quality of life will actually deteriorate over time rather than improve, even though we can improve. But what do we do about it? So many would say that, okay, well then you need to make these different regulations. But Bhagavad Gita would, and Srimad Bhagavatam would describe that actually the reason for the chaos isn't actually, it is from, again, these are all, could be seen different ways, that's why I kind of, a little stuttering. But the main issue with climate change is that we are acting impiously. And so one commits, sin has a bad connotation now, but when one acts, in unhealthy ways, or violent ways, or so many things to living entities, then this, and when one has no conscious, no conception of God, or even like the demigods, all the devas, and one really just lives as if, it's just me and the material nature. How can I enjoy in the material nature? Then this is what creates climate change. And so that even if you were to have a very nice, harmonious society where we all didn't use plastic, and we all didn't use, gasoline and so many things, and we walked and we did so many different things, that still the climate would continue to deteriorate. Why? Because the climate is actually controlled by living entities, namely the devas. The devas actually control this. Specifically because this whole planet is something like a schoolhouse, or also it's sometimes described as like a prison, meaning it's for to reform. And therefore the devas are in charge of, Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita that when souls in their natural habitat, the spiritual world, when souls become unhealthy, they have unhealthy desires, and they enter the material world where they can enact those desires. And Krishna says that I send you all there, for your own, because that's what you want. I send you where you want. And then, even though you don't want me, I give you all the facility to come back to me, to still enact, or to play out your desires, to try to be the center of the universe, but also do it in a way where you don't just degrade yourself and cause hell. So he says, I send you there, but then I still give you the process of yajna, so that you can eat, you can do all these things, you can have children, you can have family, but you do it in a way where you're tying it in with consciousness of God. And then by doing that, then even though you're doing, then it doesn't degrade you. It actually will bring you back up. But then describe that. But because, and over time, more and more people in the material world, they start taking things. I take my food that I want. I take my, I have my sex life, and I have my so many commodities, so many items that I want to own. I do that, but I don't do that with the idea that, okay, I take what I need, and then I also I offer it to God, and then I use what I need, and it's all with consciousness of Krishna. Because of that, the devas are displeased, and they don't want to provide such facilities. They don't want to provide good food. They don't want to provide good water. They don't want to provide good temperature. Therefore, they punish, and so that's why. And therefore, one could argue that one could say that the Krishna conscious perspective, a Krishna conscious perspective, is that all these solutions, they aren't solutions because you're trying to change these kind of material ways we go about things, but you aren't changing the piety, and therefore the Davis who won't be pleased. Yeah, treating the symptom, not the illness. Now, before I go to you, I wanted to ask Kartik. Kartik, do you want to chime in? What are some,
Sure.
for any of the camps, you know, what's like the strongest argument we could get to this or to anything, you know, even if it's not your actual part, you know?
Yeah. In fact, I was like thinking I could tie all the points that were made in favor of climate change into one very exemplary verse from Krishna, which is both a prophecy as well as an assurance. It's kind of like a mix of both, I think, that can tie all these points, the point of karma, the point of yugas, the point of individual dharmas, you know, nature of an individual, everything. And Krishna says one thing, you know, overall of one biggest assurance he gives in the Gita is yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham pavitranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatushkritam dharma sansthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. He says that, you know, whenever there is a decline in dharma, know that, O Arjuna, I will take incarnations and uphold dharma again. I will take it on myself to restore the balance, and I will do it in every yuga whenever it's needed. So if you look at it, Krishna is very particular about this thing, dharma, why. So if you look at it, that is climate change, like you said, you know, it is related to austerity. And if I could relate austerity to this one, the climate change, you can see why climate change happens, because there is a lack in austerity. If you look at the universe is basically very austere. There are only 4% of the universe is filled with atoms. The rest 96% is dark matter. And if you boil it down to Earth has only a limited set of resources that all of us, the rest of humanity and the animal kingdom and everything in it has to share. And if you look at that, it is built with austerity. There's only so much of zinc, so much of materials and metals and atoms in it. And the only species on the planet that can consume more than required is the human species, because it's the apex predator. So we have this ability to kind of like, for example, mass breed a certain species into existence if we want it, you know, for food or for whatever. And when we do that, it's born out of our desire to have more, and without considering how much of a strain it can place on the planet, on natural process of things, on natural evolution. So in a way, you can consider climate change as a result of disturbing this austerity, that there's only so much that all of us can share on this planet. And when there is a disturbance caused with this austerity, then you have something that is going to change, that the climate cannot handle. Because climate change could be a good thing, or also it could also be a bad thing. And here we are talking, whenever we talk about climate change, we're always thinking that it's changing for the worse. And because we're trying to take more and more from nature in an unnatural way. Like, for example, food, right? There's only so much of meat available, but what do? We try to mass produce things and try to get more meat. But where is that meat coming out of? It's coming out of gallons and gallons of water. And the animals have to be fed. So for those animals, you are feeding 60% of crops to those animals in order to eat those animals. And then again, that goes into a very unnatural cycle of things, because the animals, what happens when you mass breed a certain species into existence is that species, it becomes unsustainable over a period of time. There's not much food that you can feed it, and you start giving it hormones and all that stuff. It becomes a practice where you're breaking all this austerity. So I think dharma, one of the 4 factors of dharma, I think one is austerity, the other one is cleanliness, and the third is pity, and the fourth is truthfulness. So, and here when we talk about climate change, it's really coming from a place where people have lost the practice of austerity in their lives. And when that is restored, and there's something that needs to be to happen in order to restore austerity. So that's why we have in Krishna consciousness, there are so many things in place where we are allowed to practice austerity, like fasting on certain days, and refraining from eating meat and all that, so that which we know for sure the planet cannot sustain. So these things for sure, I think they all talk about a decline in dharma. Climate change, for the words, also means a decline in dharma that's happening because of austerity not being practiced by people. And austerity doesn't get practiced because when you have your desires run, wild, and when you want more and more and more, but don't understand where things come from, then the practice of austerity is lost.
So that's what, yeah.
So I appreciate that last bit that you added about the problem being that austerity is out of balance and we don't have enough of it, not practicing it enough. And I just want to take it a little bit more simplified even, and it ties right back into the very first statement you made, and you were even talking about it earlier about the devas. But for a simplified grasp of this whole idea, even though I love the detail and all of the little bit of wisdom and truth, we are out of whack with that practice of austerity is because we are missing the relationship completely around us in everything. How you mentioned that Krishna is in everything, and to be able to see that and acknowledge it, that is the truth. And so there is a huge lack of understanding that every bit of everything we need to have relationship with. And so we lack that austerity because we're thinking, well, I'm just using what's here, or however, And once we get this grasp that each one of us is in relationship with the divine around us, then we can even just have the smallest bit of understanding, like, I'm walking on this. I'm not entitled to walk on this ground. I'm not entitled to anything here, actually. It is a relationship that I'm having that I need to be grateful for, to acknowledge and to not overuse, and also not take from somebody else because we're not entitled to it. And it's actually quite a blessing that we have what we have. And so the issue comes from just being completely ignorant of that fact that we should be in deep relationship and connection with everything around us. And from that comes love and reverence to then be able to have this desire of treating things with the respect that it deserves. And because we're lacking that, then it just is confounding the problems. And so, I'm sure there were so many more things that I wanted to say, but I feel like that is the most potent thing that I could mention in this one.
Yeah, this point is a really good aspect. How do we see the solution? How could some Vaishnavas see the solution? When we hear solutions for climate change, if a Vaishnava falls into the camp of accepting that climate change is going on, then they would say, okay, what's the solution? And then when they hear solutions, okay, well, we will have electric vehicles, we will have a solar-powered laptop or something like that. A Vaishnava may think, like you were pointing out, that well, there are these 4 legs of dharma, and when they are disrupted, everything else is disrupted. And Kartik was specifically emphasizing this aspect of austerity, of tapa, that when that is lost, then things don't go well. They will not go well. And therefore, instead of the solution being, let us continue our current standard of comfort or increase our standard of comfort, actually, a Vaishnava may look at those points, those verses, and think, actually, it seems to me from what Krishna teaches that the solution to climate change cannot come from these innovations, but can only come from accepting austerity, from actually to losing our aversion to austerity. Now, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 8th canto, anyway, forget the context, you don't need the context, but it was Bali Maharaj, and he quotes Mother Earth. Mother Earth says, I can carry any heavy burden. I'm okay with burdens. Like Mother Earth is actually saying that. Mother Earth actually is personality behind the earth. And so earth herself, and elsewhere, and I don't know where this verse is, but Mother Earth actually says that when the devotees of Krishna are walking on her, no matter how many they are, so many people, and even when they're taking from her, she says that it's like a sweet burden. It's something like a child lying on her chest. It's like a mother's lying down, the child's on her chest, and she's not like annoyed by it. She likes it. It actually makes her more comfortable, even though you could say, materially speaking, something's on your chest. But the baby's lying on you. So Mother Earth is saying that unlimited Vaishnavas, I will happily support. I won't be burdened. I won't be disturbed. I'll accommodate them. But in the 8th canto, Bali Maharaj quotes the Earth as saying, "I can tolerate any heavy burden, but not one liar. I cannot tolerate a liar, and therefore I won't tolerate a liar." She's saying and so then in the commentary, our teachers, our saints, our acharyas, they explain how this happens in Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga the another leg, because Kartik was mentioning these different legs of religion. One of them is tapa, austerity. Another one is truthfulness. And so specifically in this verse, the commentary goes into that because in Kali Yuga people lie. They become so comfortable lying. They'll lie when it's completely unnecessary. I may lie about so many things unnecessarily, and therefore that is very displeasing, and that disrupts the earth. The earth doesn't want to facilitate liars. Why? Why should I? It's not good for them. It's not good for anybody, and therefore causes havoc. That's one point. Now it's getting late, and Arjun, you're a nice strong man. Do you know how to? And Saul, could you? Is everything already out there? Could you help Saul? Because, you wanted to add something about it? Is there anyone who wanted to add something and didn't? Because I know was there anyone else who wanted to contribute something but didn't get a chance? Did you want to add anything?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I always like hearing that.
Because normally people will come up with these ideas like, we could switch to nuclear energy,
right.
and just have a lot less bad effects from that, but there's always some kind of repercussion to that. And really, if people just consumed less and were willing to give up certain things like eating so much meat or giving up their cars and stuff to try to put more into public transportation and stuff. Like, it really kind of comes down to something that's simple but not simple, and it's just giving up more things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Yeah. And also, do you want to add anything?
I don't know. I got my bachelor's degree in earth science, so I could have many things to say about this conversation, but from my understanding, I don't understand much of the Gita. I'm reading it right now, but instead of an evil, I would like to look at it as a greed. We all want something here. Some people want a child. Some people want money. They want to accumulate as much as they can for lust. And how much toxic waste? Our feces is toxic. We are toxic to this environment. Therefore, the creation of more humans, the creation of me making a copy of myself is not gonna help this place. It's only gonna hurt it. So it's just, there's a gradient. There are the processes that are here right now, and we are able to put an end to those processes with us. Say, I don't want to have a child. I don't want to produce that into our environment, and just that. There's just so much that goes into it. I just felt like
no. So that's the thing. Like these are so difficult because there's so many factors, and as soon as you talk about one factor, it's like, well, I can't talk about this factor without talking about that factor.
Yeah.
Or else it makes no sense. This factor without that factor, but then that factor requires another factor. And so I know it's like impossible. These things are. It's a big web.
It's just funny because I studied this for 4.5 years, and it's just like, oh my I got so much to say. It was like, where do I start? To like, it's just, but we're on the right track, you know. But that's just this room, and we can spread our knowledge and our understanding through Krishna, and to help people understand that we have messed up, and we can help this place. It doesn't have to go as far as the Egyptians with their sandstorm and they got covered up, or an ice age and they got covered up, because that's part of the global warming cycles. There was an ice age, there was a thing called snowball Earth, when Earth was all covered in ice. And so it's like, we're kind of pushing to that reality, but as I said, it's a gradient. So the more we push to help that, instead of the death of this place, maybe it's the death of the material world. And so all the spirit and all the energy can live again. And it's just, we got to try. We got to work hard, and we got to spread our knowledge and help other people. And
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, Ron, you want to add something?
Just one thing. Actually, unnecessary luxury that goes more times to planet than existence of normal human beings and other things. So, like, if somebody has a lot of money, they can buy big house, so many cars, and some cars are like really damaging to the, because they use a lot of fuel and they damage more. So unnecessary luxury should be can be avoided, to prevent climate change. So that can be one more addition which people can think of.
So there are, again, there are so many factors, and one difficulty, as I was saying before, is that again, the purpose of a conversation like this isn't. I really hope we should remember, isn't to convert someone to a particular conception about climate change, or like what's better, having an electric vehicle, or or something else, or a bicycle, or what's the solution, this and that. But the main point is to see what are the different conceptions of Vaishnava can have. How can one actually see all these different, we could say, camps, that climate change is happening and we can do something about it. Climate change is happening, we can't do anything about it. Climate change is not happening at all. These different camps, how we can respect a Vaishnava who actually would see things, through these different, with these different perspectives, and how a Vaishnava could be, could have those perspectives, they could be well-founded. It doesn't mean that because, all those three camps could be supported by some statements by Krishna means they're all true. No, that is quite a fallacy. That is a strong fallacy. That just because anyone can have, a Krishna conscious perspective means all those Krishna conscious perspectives must be true. You can have but still, because we are in very limited bodies with limited intelligences, we cannot know so many things, for certain. And it's best if we can respect others' convictions as much as possible, and see, not just say, well, this is what I believe about climate change. It's Krishna conscious because Krishna said this in the 16th chapter, or it doesn't exist because Krishna said this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore anyone who has a different conception, geez, come on, get with Krishna's program. We should see, okay, well, maybe somehow or other. Krishna himself disagreed with his brother Balaram about who should marry his sister. So we can have disagreements in Krishna consciousness, and not have to, that I can't have this discussion with you unless one of us walks away with the other person's opinion. It would be a nice skill to have that I'm working on, to be able to discuss something and walk away feeling satisfied even if we don't have the same opinion. So that's one benefit of having these discussions. We could have gone much further, even though it was already a long talk or discussion. But yeah, I mean, even because I tend to ramble, I'm tempted. Oh, one more thing, and this and that. There's so much more, and we can discuss over dinner. Not the dinner, so about dinner. But thank you very much. Thank you all for joining on the discussion, and yeah, I really liked a lot of the points. A lot of the points I wasn't really considering. And again, there's so many more, more ways to see it. But I guess I appreciate hearing your different, ways of seeing it, and also your different way, or why you see it in these ways. Or not even why you are, that's the thing. Why someone else? How could someone else see it this way? Where could they be coming from? So it's nice to consider. So thank you very much. We'll just, we'll write it, Saul cooked, as usual. He's our loyal cook, really nice.
Right.
He's natural. And so everything's right here, so we'll just walk out this door, move the little curtain. And come back inside, sit down, and then you don't have to discuss this over dinner, but you're welcome.
Can we all just get along? Sing Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Today, Balaram and other devotee taking Pushadam in Mayapur, my home.
Is it your home?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I ate at your home, I think,
Yeah.
like, what, 3
You
years
was
ago
last time.
at your family. That's nice.
And Bhakti Vinod Thakur,
Yeah.
it's a very simple. It's a কৃষ্ণের সংসার করো ছাড়ি অনাচার নামের উচি দিবে দয়া সর্বশাস্ত্রের সার work for Krishna, give up all offense, and keep faith in the Hare Krishna and take Pushadam. This is the life. Kai Gaur Premanande.
Can someone play?